Well, it is a case that stayed on the minds of New Yorkers and those trying to solve it for the more than 20 years since it happened. And then late last year, a breakthrough in technology led to an arrest in the murder of Minerliz Soriano.
I sat down with members of the NYPD who never stopped their search and spoke with them about how that groundbreaking investigative tool can be used to find closure for others.
An end to an innocent life that haunted the NYPD investigators tasked with finding her killer for decades.
From that day until now, we've been working on that case.
The 1999 murder of 13-year-old Minerliz Soriano, last seen leaving her Allerton school in the Bronx on a February afternoon. Her body discovered 4 days later in a dumpster behind a Co-op City video store.
She's sexually assaulted, she was strangled, she was placed into garbage bags, she was tied up, and she was put in a garbage dumpster, which is inhumane.
Despite officers' repeated searches of where she was found and where she lived, the teen's unconscionable killing went unsolved. 3 months after the murder, Lieutenant William O'Toole took charge of the Bronx Homicide Squad.
One of the sergeants who worked on the case years ago, said, "Hey, I'll never forget you told us that we're going to solve this case because there's DNA."
DNA believed to be the unknown killers. In the years that followed, police compared it to 13 convicted sex offenders, but it never was a match. Then, in late 2017, New York began allowing a new technology to identify suspects in certain cases, linking them to the DNA of relatives already in a database.
So it's limited to those convicted offenders, which constitute about 700,000 in total, looking for first-order male relatives. In other words, a father, brothers, or sons.
The deputy chief of the NYPD's Forensics Division, EMANUEL Katranakis, believed a familial DNA search could crack this case. If successful, it would be a first-of-its-kind achievement for the NYPD. 20 years after the murder, an application was submitted, then a year and a half of more waiting.
At that point, they provided us with the lead.
We got a hit on an individual.
So we were excited to bring it back.
We had 5 sons. We went from there.
A hit to a man who'd since died. From him, a family tree was created. 2 of his 5 sons immediately ruled out as suspects because of age.
Out of the 3 brothers, 2 basically got tested.
We collected DNA samples, and we eventually matched that semen stain to Jupiter Joe.
Or Joseph Martinez, a now 49-year-old amateur astronomer who'd lived 2 floors above the victim and avoided suspicion at the time.
He had been interviewed during the canvass when we talked to everyone in the building. Said, "Yeah, I used to see the girl in front of the building." What everybody said is the same thing. And now he's our guy.
The first suspect in New York City taken into custody because of familial DNA. No history of trouble with the law until Martinez's arrest last November for Minerliz's murder. 22 years later, the public persona he developed during those years,
I'm here today in New York City,
prompting more questions from cops.
When we first saw the videos and everything like that, you look and think, could there be more people out there? Could there be more cases out there?
Bronx detectives are still actively investigating Martinez, while looking for other cases where familial DNA could bring closure.
I thought of 2 or 3 other cases that we could move and try to get the same thing done right now.
These new technologies offering new opportunities for families like the Sorianos to find justice.
We have not forgotten, we will never forget, and if we can apply familial DNA searching or another scientific tool to solve the case, to bring you closure, we are committed to doing that.
Joseph Martinez has pleaded not guilty to the murder charges against him. He's due back in court on March 7th. If you have any information about Martinez or an unsolved case where familial DNA might help, Bronx homicide detectives encourage you to call them at the number right there at the bottom of your screen.